think this stream is working. I don't know. I just plugged in the microphone, but I didn't test it. So if you can't hear me, they're talking about the heat, and I was freaking out yesterday because it looked like there was going to be a heat wave plus high 80s. Now they showed the next 5 days they've got it all above 90 here. I can't do this. So I was saying yesterday, it'd be best if I just died before this week came. And now it's going to be worse. I intended to react to the news for other reasons, so. I was watching the Today Show this morning, and I didn't have the internet then. I had got a hotspot from the library. That's why I'm on now. But they're just saying record heat moves east, and they're showing it down up the middle. I'm like, it's already, to me, it's not record heat, but it's too hot here already. What's going on? Because just like yesterday, it wasn't technically supposed to be that bad, and I walked 2 blocks away to the Bogota, you know, as Joe Biden says. And I was like, the sun is not right. The sun is not right. I was like, they didn't tell us, but the sun is not right. Something's happened in the last couple of years, I swear. Like when I was a kid, they were talking about the ozone, right? And how the ozone layer was going away. I guess it's completely gone, but it feels so much worse just being in the sun at all. You really feel like you're being fried. Like I said, I live up here, South Coast, Massachusetts, okay? The problem is these climate change people, meaning the ones in government. I said years ago, I live here in Massachusetts, it's all blue and Democrat, right? For, well, not now, but let's say 10, 15 years ago, I was going to public meetings all the time about public transportation. There were meetings for the South Coast Rail, which we still do not have, which would be a train, like a not exactly like a subway train, but like a, kind of trains that go city to city, you know, like the Long Island Railroad or wherever. That kind of a train going to Boston, because they have it other places to Boston, and people are able to commute that way. We're supposed to be getting that since before I came home. My mother told me we were going to get that. They never did the funding. All the Democrats, all agreeing with each other, did not do that. And I said to myself, how are these people who are all supposed to be so gung-ho about the environment, why do they have such a hard time giving money to public transportation and making it better? Therefore, people won't need your cars. Because, as far as I was concerned, gas emissions from cars were a big problem. Yeah, it's supposed to be cow farts and everything like that, so then they blame people who eat meat and whatever. This is what I wanted to react to. The systemic failures of this of the police in Texas. I've said sort of the same things over and over again about when police actually do shoot people. And you have to just, I know people do it all the time in a very simple way. Like, how do they shoot people who may have committed a small crime or something? They shoot them like 50 times, 75 times, but nobody shot this kid who was attacking these children.
A new preliminary report into the emergency response finding 376 officers.
376. 240 state and federal agents trained. There are two options to explain this. And I've been saying for the longest time that the reason we have all the issues with police officers, when they shoot people when they shouldn't, And in situations like this, it's because they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about removing a threat to themselves. They're thinking about they don't want to get shot, so they shoot before they get shot. In situations where maybe somebody shouldn't have been murdered or killed or whatever however you want to say it, even if they did commit a crime or something, or even if they've got a knife or some other shit. Blaming Wi-Fi.
It took 77 minutes for that help to arrive. Every one of his students was killed. I didn't hear any trying to open the door or anything. They did not hear any efforts to try to open that door while you were bleeding potentially to death inside the classroom. Yeah. Sam, as we learn more and more about
what do you think this is? I'm talking to myself. What do you think this is? The part of me that is old and is an old crone and is as pessimistic as you can be has an option that explains it perfectly, but there's the more realistic maybe option. Okay, you are a police officer. You've got a big fucking weapon. You are in a school, and there's supposedly a school shooter. I'm sitting there trying to come up with, that's me. I'm coming up with the reasons why I'm not busting in myself. Forget everything else. Like I said, I believe the training, all these years ago, like more than 10 years ago, there was a kid who was shot over here, and I'm pointing over here, like 2 blocks away. I think he was 14 years old or something like that. And because he was coming at police officers with a knife or something, I don't even know if he had a knife or he appeared to have a knife. He was coming, and it was like they shot him, and they knew he was having some kind of problems with his, like, I don't know, something. And everybody's like, why is there no other option? And to me, right then and there, and the more and more I heard these stories, I said it's the training. They're trying to get rid of a threat instead of seeing a human being. And I've said that, and I know people explain why the training has to be that way. They're explaining why the training has to be that way to save your own life, or suppose there's somebody else around you. So you have to shoot this person before they shoot you or somebody else. But the assumption is that your murder or this other person's murder is definitely going to happen. Like, there's no other thing that could happen. And that, to me, is what's wrong with the training. And I don't know who they get trained by. I don't know who teaches these people to do this. Like I said, I felt like maybe it was after 9/11. Everybody's thinking terrorists, stuff like that. So they see everybody, a kid with a comb, whatever, they see everybody as a terrorist. And they're doing the same training for situations that have nothing to do with, you know what I mean? But then you have a situation like this where clearly there's a shooter that needs to be shot, and it doesn't happen. So whatever the training is, it doesn't work, because years and years and years ago, I remember, I think this was in the 90s, before any of this crap was, before Columbine, I read something about like the most kind of stressful jobs, and it was something like secretary and patrol officer or something like that, because you have a lot of responsibility. Like, a lot of secretaries basically have to do their boss's job, but they have no decision-making process. Same thing with a patrol officer. Like, they have very strict rules they have to follow, and they have to have memorized what they're supposed to do in this situation, that situation. And so in the moment, they're supposed to rifle through all the things they're supposed to do instead of being able to make a real decision by themselves, because they're supposed to do whatever protocols are. They're supposed to do whatever somebody else wants them to do. And to me, I'm like, I think I see that here. Let me make sure this is working. So So I'm saying to myself, I'm in the hallway. Could they not hear the gunshots? Because I'm seeing a second what they showed here. I haven't watched any video on it. If there's more video online, I don't know. Could they not hear gunshots? Did they really not know what was going on? Did they just get were the walls that thick? Because I can't imagine me. I've never held a gun. I don't want to. I don't own one. I watch action movies and I watch westerns and I think they're cool and awesome and fun. But I would really like to get through this life without ever having to kill another human being. So far, I haven't. However, in this situation, I'm saying to myself, I'm a cop. Some kind of cop. Apart from training that has my brain so melted that I really can't think for myself anymore. Maybe that's what we're living in a time where too many people, for whatever reason, have been told how to think. So that it's really the part of their brain that you think for yourself has atrophied. Maybe that's what it is. And I'm not trying to insult these people. I'm trying to give them a reason, an excuse for how the hell this happens. Because I'm saying to myself, I'm standing there. And like I said, I don't know what they could hear. I don't know what they couldn't hear. I don't know what they thought was going on. But the thing, I can't even picture 376 cops. I used to go to the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City. That's the only time I can think I probably saw that many cops. Okay, so to think of that many cops being on an elementary schools aren't big. If I think of my elementary school, again, a couple blocks away, if I think of 300 cops being at my elementary school, and you know what I mean? They would have to be like squeezed in tight. And we had a lot of kids at my school. It wasn't a small school. So, I don't understand. And I say to myself, okay, you're there, you're in the hallway somewhere, you've got a big weapon, and your training is this, that, and the other thing, or this is what you're supposed to do, or you have a boss, so you're thinking about your pension, or you're thinking about your own life and your own safety, and I have kids, I got to take care of them, whatever the hell you're thinking in the hallway. And I'll say this again, I don't know how much choice we have in the moment. I think there's who we are. I think there's our experiences. I think that you are or you aren't a person who in that moment will run in and save kids, and it will come what may to your own self. What bothers me though is I feel like, say we went back to the 80s and you didn't have a bunch of school shootings and there was no training, but there was some local cops and some of them had shotguns, and the situation happened where a kid went in and for some unknown reason had some kind of, well, I don't even know what the automatic weapons were back then. He had a weapon and he was killing. I feel like back then a regular cop, maybe an old fat cop who's going to retire a week from now with a shotgun without a bunch of training is going to run in there and take the kid out. So yeah, maybe the kid will have killed X amount, but once the cop got there with the shotgun, I don't feel like there's going to be a delay. Let me get some communication, let me find out what the higher ups want to do. Oh, we're local cops, those are federal cops. This is what I've watched Twin Peaks. I've watched plenty of things where there's local law enforcement and then there's the FBI and rank and all that bullshit and all that we're in charge now. If it was we're in charge now shit, to let all those kids die and for them to stand around for an hour, I don't understand it. But like I said, I think most people are saying to themselves, Jesus Christ, I am a person. Even people who don't believe in guns, hate guns, want weapons banned. I think most people say to themselves, if I was there, and this is an elementary school, I would have ran in and tried to shoot the kid, the bad guy kid, because that's what you do, because little kids are being murdered. So there's so little of this that makes sense. And I couldn't understand it this morning. I'm just saying to myself, I heard the number this morning, 376. And I've been hearing about the miscommunication. I've been hearing about all this stuff. And I was just thinking 376. And I really had to think of how many people that was. And I remember in school, when I was like in the 6th grade, and how schools were supposedly starting to get overcrowded or whatever. I think there was 25 kids in my class. Or somebody between 25, and I mean in my classroom, like my 6th grade class. And then there were like 3 other 6th grade classes. And then there were just as many 5th grade classes. So, when you think about how many kids that is, you know, in a normal school, and like I said, there's that many cops. When I think about how many people fit into, how many small people fit into a classroom, and that's 28, say kids, people, and we're talking about, I guess they were outside, I guess they were not allowed in. I really don't know what the fuck the situation is. But suppose you're there. Suppose you're Cop Steve, and I don't even know any, and if there was a cop named Steve, I'm not talking about you, I've just made that up. So you're Cop Steve, and you're standing out there, and you know, they're telling you stand down, you can't do this, you can't do that, we need orders, we need this, we need that. And if there's an elementary school, and there's supposedly a shooter in there. None of those people went ballistic and said, fuck this shit, I'm going in there. I mean, yes, we've all been raised on the great American heroes and how this doesn't happen in the movies. Nobody just says, okay, well, never mind. We all can picture somebody going in guns blazing in any kind of movie from any decade. A regular guy, a detective, a former police officer, a mom, you know what I mean, or somebody who used to be in the military. You're just a random person who sees a situation, gets their gun, and goes. And they said the one guy whose wife was in there, because she was a school teacher or whatever, he wasn't allowed to go in. I'm not blaming him at all. I'm not blaming him at all. But this allowed to go in thing. Again, this goes with the training. This goes with the protocols. This goes with how things are supposed to be done and people being taught to think and taught to defer and stuff like that. And I don't understand. Because like everybody says, they waited an hour. That, to me, that says hostage situation. Where somebody, like, again, movies. Think Dog Day Afternoon. Somebody's threatening to kill people but hasn't killed anybody. When they say active shooter, doesn't that mean they're actively shooting? So, everything is wrong in this world right now. This heat wave, I don't know what's going to go on. But I keep saying things are wrong. They're going to get worse. They are getting worse. When you start hearing stories, you start hearing explanations for things. Just everything is sick. You know, like sick humor, twisted. And so there's somebody outside my house talking. I don't know if you can hear them. I can hear them like they're right here. I don't have the window open here. But here's my sick and twisted interpretation. I am not a fan of saying false flags because I don't want anybody to think I'm saying that, because sometimes you're saying a false flag is made up. If I say something is a false flag, or if I hear about false flag things, I don't think they're made up. And nobody's trying to diminish what happened to the actual victims. We're just talking about if things are part of a game to those up on high who want to serve an agenda. Think about it. And I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to make a point. I'm not saying the darkest part of my brain says, okay, you've got almost 400 cops, one lone shooter inside an elementary school. And nobody does nothing. I'm not saying little kids didn't die. I'm not saying people didn't die. I'm not saying, when I say false flag, I'm not saying made up news story. I'm saying, when they talk about false flags, I'm saying, okay, the black part of my brain thinks of things like, as they might call them, black ops. And I said the same thing about that grocery store, because it was a bunch of black people, right, that got shot in the grocery stores, and it was like, oh, cries for gun control, cries for gun control. It leaves the news, because then there's another story the next week. So what happens? They don't get their gun control legislation that they want, the people who want it. So they have to push it further, because they think that somehow, if they keep pushing it further, pushing it further, pushing it further. What is this noise? It sounds like somebody. It sounds like somebody on a mini bike, a mini motorbike, but it also sounds like a ghost. So you have what's this kind of so when people talk about 9/11 and stuff like that, I never went in for that. But in my opinion, you can have government. There's a crisis and government can use it to their ends. Like an actual germ taking over the world. An actual pandemic being used, you know, to try to push an agenda you had in place. You don't have to make the pandemic, but you can use it. You don't have to make 9/11, but you can use it. And it's fear-based, and it's all that stuff, and it's getting people to give up their freedoms and all this other stuff like that. Am I saying this is what happened in Uvalde? No. However, again, I'm not saying for sure, but it seemed like a lot of those names were Hispanic. The grocery store was a lot of African Americans, right? The people on the left who run things, not the people who go to the ballot box, not the people who really still want to do good. The people on the left who pretend to think the things that their constituents think, because they don't. Whoever runs them could have these operations take place in order to push an agenda to get people to have the gun control they want. So then once they have the gun control they want, the people cannot resist whatever kind of totalitarian regime they want to put in place. Okay? So whoever the people are that are doing these things, I don't put it past them to say, okay, let's sacrifice a bunch of school children, and that'll be worse than a bunch of people in the grocery store, because the grocery store thing didn't work. Or let's do these things, you know, consecutively, so the people who care will be so, because the other people are evil, but the people who care will be so upset and constantly afraid of all the thing and what's going on, that we can really manipulate the situation. And then the people who are iffy, we can push over some of them. We can change hearts and minds by pushing and pushing and pushing it until the people finally give up and say, all right, fine, whatever. I don't want to hear about any more dead kids. Take my guns. The point is, people know that, I mean, anybody who looks at the case in Uvalde and says guns killed people, or guns are the problem, there were so many guns that could have stopped that. And those guns were standing there doing nothing. So if the guns knew that a bunch of little kids were being murdered, and the guns had feet, maybe the guns would have marched in and killed the shooter. My stream is paused. I don't know if it's still going or if the whole thing stopped. I'm waiting for it to come back. It's not coming back right now. And it's not moving. So I'm going to try to close this all down. My point being that the dark explanation the way my mind works, I don't want that to be the case. But as long as I've lived in these here United States and on this planet Earth, those are the ones that make the most sense, and I hate it. But I do not put it past the evil people who are trying to control this world, and who mostly do already, for them to purposely have small children murdered to get their agenda. Does that mean, I'm never saying that these things that I'm saying people used as pawns in the game, just like the people of the Ukraine. The whole freaking Ukraine has been used as pawns in the game. They have basically wiped those people off the earth, wiped away the whole country. Like I said, a generation of Ukrainians. For what? For what exactly? These are all shitty chess moves in a game most people aren't playing. It's for the power mad and for those they control who want to be close to the power mad because they're full of fear too, and they figure the closer they are to the demonic presence in this world, somehow that demonic presence will not come for them. As I've said before, the devil always gets rid of his henchmen first. I don't know if you can hear my alarm. But it is evil, I believe. There's no doubt in my mind. But evil doesn't do itself. Evil doesn't happen by itself. It needs willing participants. It needs... The Force has a powerful influence over the weak-minded, and the dark side is stronger. And you get people afraid for their jobs, afraid for their family's future, afraid that if they don't do as they're told, they're going to get fired, and their kid won't be able to continue having tuition to the great school that they're going to that's going to get them into college someday so they can have a great life. And that's your overwhelming fear on a daily basis, that you just want to get by and you just want to keep your job. Your boss can tell you to do a lot of shit. They can tell you to stand there. There's a school of little children being shot up, but just stay right where you are. Most people, just like I'm saying, this country wasn't like this 20 years ago. 20 years ago, people weren't scared to death to lose their job. People were free because they could quit their job and get another one. And everybody wasn't a totalitarian dictator in the workplace. And everything wasn't, you get fired, you'll never work in this town again. There wasn't such a sense of lack. It's not just a sense of lack, there is lack. Because once you lose a job, you may not get another one. And nobody cares about you if you don't have one. And that's the cruelty of this country that's been going on. I mean, to me, the real turning point when everything became very bad was in the around the time of the housing crisis, and when the banks had to be bailed out, and when Occupy Wall Street failed, because that allowed the people who were being tyrannical, meaning the banks, big banks, to continue on in their oppression of people, and it's collapsed us all. And now we have a freaking, I swore we were in a recession before the pandemic happened. So if we were in a recession now, before the pandemic happened, and now we're over here in whatever the fuck this is. What are we in? This isn't no perhaps recession. Some of us been in a depression for a long time. This got dog eat dog rolled over toilet paper. That was 2 years ago. We're far beyond that. The more I hear about Uvalde, the less it makes sense. A lot of people lost children. That whole town is going to be messed up forever. People who heard about it are traumatized by it. People who have school-age children all over the place worry about that happening, and they imagine their own kids, and that helps to build the trauma. This is what I'm saying. This is the Garmon Bozia. This is in Matrix Resurrections. This is how the spoilers for all these movies. This is how Garmon Bozia is from Twin Peaks. In Twin Peaks, there was a concept that there were these otherworldly beings that subsisted on the pain and suffering of humans, and the more that the people were tortured and the more bad feelings and stuff they had, the more these people, it was like if say there were demons who people's suffering was like crack for them, or heroin for them, or cocaine, or something that they were addicted to, and you know what I mean, they fed off of it. Okay, so that's from Twin Peaks. That's Garma Muzia. It's represented by cream corn in the show, in the Matrix Resurrections. Like I said, spoilers for that movie. The new architect, the analyst, decided that as batteries, people generated more energy through fear, right? So the more you torture people, the more energy you got out of them, which I believe is true. I think people expend more energy. That's why when people are afraid, they get fight or flight. It's the adrenaline, right? So these evil people, these evil beings, these evil entities in this world feed off of fear. That's symbolic in these movies, but it's what's going on in life. So the more people are afraid, the more easy it is to manipulate them, because you can convince them that you're the one who's going to keep them safe. You're going to keep them safe with, I don't know, this insurance. You're going to keep them safe with this medicine, let's say. Or you're going to keep them safe by making a safe place for them. Or you're going to keep them safe by not allowing people to make mean tweets around them so their feelings don't get hurt. And you get everybody so worried about being safe when there's no such thing as safety in this world. There never was and there never will be. And it's hard to live with that. But the powerful entities in this world, the control freaks, the presidents, the dictators, the parents, you know what I mean? People have always ruled through fear. The bosses, anybody who's trying to manipulate, they use fear to manipulate people. If you don't do the boom, you're going to lose your job. And then all the shit that happens when you lose your job. If you don't, you know, acquiesce to this and that, then this bad thing is going to happen to you. Or, you know what I mean? If you don't play the game, you're not going to get a promotion. You know, if you don't get this passport, you won't be able to go to San Diego Comic-Con. This health passport. And then you fear missing out. And you should, because that's not right. So if I can make you afraid of not having something, if I can make you afraid of not having a house, if I can make you afraid that your kids won't have a good education, if I can make you afraid that you're going to lose your life, I can get you to do a whole lot of shit. And that's what evil people and evil entities do. So it becomes necessary for people, decent, regular old folks, as they're called, to try their best, and it's an impossible task, but to try as long as you can to not give in to the fear. It's really fucking hard, and nobody should ever be blamed for when they're being manipulated through the narcissists and the demons who want to control you for their own selfish ends, to get a hit off of that adrenaline, to use your energy as a battery for their nefarious deeds. Okay? So Uvalde makes less and less and less and less sense, because now you just say, where is the, not the lone gunman who's shooting kids, where is the lone gunman police officer, or I don't know, somebody who says fuck this shit, throw me under the bus, fire me, let me lose my pension, put me in jail if I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm busting there and save these kids. Where's that one person who said, fuck all y'all, I'm going to handle this myself. Take my badge. Call me bad dude. Where's that person? And nobody knows. Nobody knows, and everybody's asking that question. It doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why I hate the dark, evil interpretation I have. That those kids were made to die for an agenda. Not that it didn't happen, but that they were made to die. They were expendable. Just like the people of Ukraine are expendable. Just like the poor, just like the homeless, just like everybody else our governments don't care about. They're expendable. You think all this shit that the national, oh, we got a new suicide hotline. Yeah, but why is everybody so depressed? Why do you make life so bad so that people can kill themselves? Why don't you fix life? I've said this. I said that's what's wrong with all these things. People wanting to kill somebody, people wanting to kill themselves, people wanting to get a gun and shoot up a school. If they're truly that screwed up, it's because they have no hope for their own life getting better. So why not make everybody's life better? Because the people in power, the people who could do it like that, they don't want you to be happy. They want you to be miserable. They are using you for their ends, whatever their ends are. You're to be used. You're not to be helped. You're not to be made. You're to be convinced that somebody's trying to make you safe, but they don't want you to be safe. Because then you won't be afraid anymore. And you won't be able to be controlled anymore. Anybody want to tell me the good explanation they come up with why just one person didn't roll in there and say, fuck this shit, you're going to have to shoot me to stop me from going in and saving these kids? Tell me what the situation was. Was that school soundproof? Did nobody really know what was going on? Because they're saying the kids made 911 calls. You see the guy they show the body cam, they show the guy talking to him, oh, this can be peaceful. What is he talking about right there? What can be peaceful? And he looks like he's hiding, and he's the guy in charge, right? Why are people with my attitude? Where's my John Wayne? Where is my Lone Ranger? Where have all the cowboys gone? What the fuck? Why are the people like me on the bench? Why are the people like me who would say, fuck, my life isn't worth shit, let me go in there and try to save these kids? I don't give a fuck what anybody tells me. I have this thing, it shoots. I might be able to stop this. Where did those people go? Why are they held? And I'm not talking about like if somebody there showed up and wanted to go in and they were stopped from going in. That's not even, I mean, the people who were supposed to be there. The people who were in a position to say, fuck this shit, I'm going in. Because the rest of them, like I said, I would fix so many things if I had a position of power. I'd fix so many things if I just happened to be wealthy. If I won the lottery, I'd fix shit. I wouldn't just sit there and get some bling and have, I would get a tiny apartment in Manhattan, and then I'd start fixing shit, and I'd stop complaining. You know when you look up in your local channel, it just suddenly has a picture of Linda Evangelista and Kyle MacLachlan going to premiere all those years ago? You're like, what? I was just talking about Carmen Bozia. Okay, Linda Evangelista and Kyle MacLachlan were a couple for a few years, I think, back in the day, when it was the supermodel rage and he was on Twin Peaks and all that stuff, or just maybe after Twin Peaks. But it was just random because I'm watching, I got it on Channel 10. This is Channel 10 WJAR. They're going to commercial, and they're like, she's back. And I guess they're talking about Linda Evangelista. But it was really random to see some clip from probably like, I don't know, 1992, 1993, somewhere in there. It just totally knocked me out of space because I was just talking about Carmen Bozia and I see Kyle MacLachlan with Linda Evangelista. What's going on? Linda Evangelista, lately, as far as I know, had gotten some really bad liposuction or some kind of plastic surgery that made her in some kind of really bad pain and stuff like that, and disfigured and all kinds of stuff. So they must be talking about why they used the old clip just to synchronize with me and put Kyle MacLachlan in my face at the time he was on the original Twin Peaks. That's a little bit crazy. I'm gonna go outside right now before my brain explodes. But anybody ever want to talk to me about any of this stuff, go in the comments, tell me what you think, tell me how this makes any kind of sense, because I already am always looking for the the loophole. I'm always looking for the hidden agenda. I'm always looking for the thing that explains the thing that doesn't make sense. And usually it's a very dastardly plan. But like I said, I've been saying for over 10 years, definitely over 10 years, probably 15 years, I've been saying, it came to me on my own, that the training turns humans into automatons, which doesn't work. So when the shit hits the fan, when the rubber meets the road, and the situation is nigh, you got a human being trying to be a robot, and then nothing happens. They short circuit, and the wrong shit happens. But this 376 people short circuited all at once, or 376 people were held back by one idiot. Think of all the Western, think of all the movies where somebody's like, no, fuck this shit, I'm handling it. Where did those people go? Where have my cowboys gone? Why wasn't I there? Because I would have fucking done it. Or they would have dragged me away, kicking and screaming. I would have definitely, just the way I am right now, standing in that situation, I would have been screaming bloody murder. And I'm sure people were. If anybody comes up with a better explanation than that was meant to happen to those children because somebody in power saw them as expendable to try to push the situation for gun control. And I even mean the people who definitely want gun control. If you definitely want gun control, you want all guns to go away. You want them to be outlawed entirely. Even you too. Just please tell me the explanation you could come up with that makes sense for why those cops, nobody went in there. An explanation you can come up with. Not be upset about it. Everybody's upset about it. No, they didn't do their job. But why didn't they do their job? Sit and think with it. Meditate on it. And tell me a different explanation than the sad one that I come up with. Brainwashing, being worried about their own jobs, worried about their own safety is over here. It's still not a good enough answer. That's why I go to the sad Black Ops answer. Because not 376 people. You can't have 376 narcissists on different police forces, on different tactical units, all in the same spot, standing there at an elementary school going, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Well, who's in charge? We'll wait till we figure out who's in charge. And then that person who's in charge can then tell us all what to do. And we'll just sit here because, you know, I got my own problems. No. Somebody please tell me a good answer besides the ones I have. Because I got two options. And the one where people are just too worried about themselves, it only goes so far. Because you can't have 376 people who put themselves above a school full of kids. Little kids. Can't happen.